Now, as to the question of evidence, I've examined it very carefully. There's no dispute at all that there's no forensic evidence of rape. There's no medical evidence of rape, but a lot of the evidence was destroyed or it wasn't taken, which is true. I mean, it's a perfectly plausible. What was said was they were so shocked by the magnitude of the killings, and it was a large number. It was 1,200, of whom 800 were civilians. And it was done in such a concentrated period of time that they processed the bodies very quickly to bury them, and they had no time to take medical and forensic evidences. Okay, that's perfectly possible. But here's a part that I find very implausible. They say that the rapes occurred out in the open.
Yeah, in fact, some people say they witnessed it, right?
Right, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
They said that rapes occurred out in the open, in free space, because one of the purposes of the rapes was to intimidate and shock Israeli society. That's the claim. The first person to be there was Pramila Patten, who was the Secretary General's special envoy for conflict-related sexual violence. She writes in her report, we saw 5,000 photographs. 5,000 photographs. You'll agree that's a fairly large number of photographs. She said, we saw 50 hours of digital tape. Now, that's quite a large number, given we're talking about a finite period of time, about a day and a half.
And we're talking about people who filmed during the incident occurring and the footage.
They said the footage came from CCTV, dash cams, body cams, traffic cams, and iPhone.
An iPhone, yeah.
You're right. So every kind of technological paraphernalia, all right? And then she said, we didn't see one image, digital or photographic, one image of sexual violence. That's what she said. Direct image. Not one direct image of sexual violence. These witnesses said they were in hiding while these gang rapes, is called, are unfolding before their eyes. Not one photograph? Not one. No, they were photographing with their iPhones horrible things they were doing in Gaza. They were photographing the degradation of men and women, blowing up homes. It wasn't as if being in a war zone terrified these people. Not one picture. Does that sound believable to you? Amnesty International confirmed that. About a year later, Amnesty put out a report that said, we have not seen one image, literally not one direct image of sexual violence. What do you conclude from that?
So these witnesses, your point is obviously if they were there and they'd seen this, we would have some photographic evidence.
Something.
What do you make,
But
though?
we do, there's a second side to it.
Yeah.
We do have huge photographic evidence. We have 5,000 photographs and 50 hours of digital tape. That's a large amount.
It is. I guess what's difficult to argue against is the idea that sexual violence is often such a common part of violence in general, right? I can't think of a single conflict.
Given what I see young people photograph nowadays, if you see police brutality, everybody immediately takes out their iPhone. Yeah. And they said they were safely hiding as these gang rapes are unfolding in open areas. Now, let's be clear. Horrible things happened on October 7th. There's no point in denying that. But for some reason, Israel decided to die on the hill of rape. And that was just a lie. As you know, no survivor came forward in Israel from October 7th. None. And I'm sure, Israel's on the spectrum. It's a sexually libertine society. People are much more open about sex and things like that, certainly than Gaza. So here's a peculiar question. The women in Gaza openly testified to what happened to them. Why didn't the Israeli women?
Well, we know why. We were told that they were too traumatized.
Yeah, but that's my question. Why would they be more traumatized than Gaza women?
Oh, well, look, that argument, Norman, I would not go into because I think anyone who's been a victim of sexual violence has a right to, deal with that in any way they see fit.
But you would acknowledge that in a society in which you openly discuss sexual matters with women too, rape, it's much more likely in that society women would step forward than in a society like Gaza.